U.S. President Donald Trump attended the White House Correspondents Dinner in Washington last night. The black-tie gathering of journalists and politicians had been postponed for 3 months after a gunman tried to rush into the venue back in April. For more on this, let's bring in journalist Steve Futterman with the latest on how things went last night. So, Steve, walk us through how the night unfolded.
Well, it was an unusual night. Remember, Donald Trump had never attended these Correspondents' Dinner in his first term. He missed last year. This year, he decided to attend, but obviously it was postponed and delayed 3 months because of the incident in April. Now, Trump was the center of attention throughout. The big question was, what was he going to say? Now, there were maybe some awkward moments for Trump at the beginning because there were some journalists who were being awarded prizes for doing stories that were quite critical and quite exposing of the White House. In one case, it was a story that Trump sued the Wall Street Journal for at one point $20 billion. As the Wall Street Journal got the award, Trump sort of smiled from the podium or the lectern where he was sitting and sort of shrugged his shoulders. Now, when Trump began to speak, he began by joking a bit, saying, "Do I have any say in these awards?" He got some laughs, but soon he got into some of his rambling, meandering, talking about all these different subjects, not much about the First Amendment, the Constitution, journalism. He talked about the ballroom, which he wants to have constructed at the White House. He talked about the UFC fight that he had at the White House recently. He talked about Democrats, talked about reporters criticizing them. And then he brought up one of his favorite subjects, the idea of him possibly running for a third term in 2028. Take a listen.
I'm pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a fourth term as President of the United States. I will be doing that. I will be having an official, in fact, I think I have, I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again. Thank you. I'm going to do it.
And he later said that he was joking. He made some pretty harsh critical attacks on some of the CNN reporters. Jake Tapper, he called him Fake Tapper. He really complained about Caitlin Collins, saying that she never smiles. CNN actually issued a response to that. So there were some nasty comments about journalists, although at the end he said he would like to attend next year. I will say this reminded me of sort of a comedian doing a long bit where no one's reacting. There were times, there were shots of the audience looking just bored, not reacting. He would say jokes. There were no groans. There were not applause, basically silence. So it was a very awkward evening to some degree.
All under increased security, because as we mentioned, this was postponed for 3 months after the shooting in April. So what kind of security measures were in place this time around?
Well, the major difference was that it was a different hotel. It was at the Waldorf Astoria rather than the Washington Hilton. There were far fewer people there. There were extra security measures. The way you entered, not with a ticket, but with a QR code. You had to go through the magnetometers. Everyone was really checked out before the event took place. There was one very moving moment where one of the Secret Service agents who actually stopped the gunman from entering the room in April was honored. He received a really nice, very moving round of applause, a standing ovation. President Trump shook his hand. But like I said, it was just a very, very awkward evening. We sort of anticipated an awkward evening, and it turned out to be the case. Trump basically going through his usual rambling type speech, and the audience, in some cases, basically not reacting at all.
All right. Journalist Steve Futterman, thanks so much for this.
Thanks, Marianne.